Call of Duty looks intense. I just can't wait to earn a little bit of prestige in the multiplayer. That's all I'm wanting to do. Now listen, let's keep this energy going. Here up next to discuss Spider-Man Web of Shadows is the studio head for Shaba Games, Mr. Chris Scholes. But before he comes up here, why don't we take a look at the trailer for Spider-Man Web of Shadows.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris, and that was a hint of some of the chaos you're going to see in Spider-Man Web of Shadows. So what we have is an original storyline created for the game and is based in the comic book universe, and it's not based off of a film. And what that's allowed us to do is really craft a story that we feel best set to, that was best for the type of game that we really wanted to make. So you're going to find New York City overwhelmed by a growing invasion of alien symbiotes. That Spider-Man has to wade through this panic. And S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to come and hover over Manhattan in their helicarrier, setting up quarantine zones and evacuation points, just trying desperately to stem the tide against this invasion. The conflict engulfs everybody. And it's going to be up to Spider-Man to decide who to team up with, his fellow heroes, or even some of his oldest adversaries in order to save the city. So one of the main areas that we focused on with this game was the combat system. The combat system has basically been completely rebuilt. We've been able to marry a lot of the things that make extreme sports great, the fluidity of motion and the creativity the player has, and able to push that into an action-adventure genre. So Spider-Man, with his speed and agility and strength, is really the perfect character to make this vision a reality. So what you're going to find is Spider-Man fighting through the streets of Manhattan, just bouncing off of enemy to enemy and being able to swing kick enemies and knock them up into the wall and literally carry the fight up the walls all the way up to the tops of the buildings and then jump off and fight all the way back down. We really feel like we've been able to finally capture for the player exactly how it is that they expect Spider-Man to be able to fight. So what I'm going to show you here is a little bit of our wall combat, and just to set it up, this is one of those S.H.I.E.L.D. evacuation points where civilians are being airlifted to safety as hordes of symbiotes are climbing up the sides of the building trying to get to them, and it's up to Spider-Man to save them. Okay, So another central tenet we had was that we really want to give the player the control to decide how he wanted to fight. So using that as an example, most of the fight took place on the wall, but at any time he could have picked up, Spider-Man could have picked up some of the symbiotes, thrown them off into the air, and just started comboing him in the air and even taking the fight all the way back down to the ground. So it's really up to the player just to decide how he wants to take the fight. And this goes also to the two different suits. So the players can use the red suit, which is more agility and web-based, or rely on the black suit's kind of more brute force and power and strength. But it's really up to the player to decide how he wants to play. And this element of control carries over to the other elements of the game. We have a robust upgrade system. There's dozens of moves that the player can use to customize Spider-Man and really become the hero that they want to be. So there's also a number of decisions throughout the game with real consequences. These decisions are going to affect the story, the way that people react to you, and ultimately control who it is that's fighting by your side in this last desperate struggle against this symbiote army. So I'm going to leave you with a little bit of the air combat. Now this is an earlier build, but I think it gives you a good example, a good taste of what fighting in the air with Spider-Man is like. So this is against Vulture and his minions, and it's Spider-Man fighting 1,000 feet up. So thank you, and hope you enjoy it.
Aw, look at the adorable little Vulture's nest. Is this your new line of work? Goblins are us?
Leave now while you still can.
Oh, it's a cliché fight! Okay, hang on.
I'm warning you, Spider-Man. I am more powerful than ever!
Uh-oh.
And we are over here in the corner of the hall where Activision and Sierra have their booths right next to each other, which is cool because they're related now. And on the Activision side, they don't really have any games. They're playing the Spider-Man and Marvel Ultimate Alliance trailers kind of back to back. There's a cool thing for folks that come by. You can actually get your picture taken on a green screen and just get put in heroic poses and just be made to look like a hero. And that's what these guys have right here over on the Comic-Con show floor. Hey, and we are at Activision's Comic-Con event this evening, and we are talking with Chris Schultz, who is studio head of Shaba Games, and you guys are working on Spider-Man Web of Shadows. We have bugged you before, but now we got to play it, and you showed off something new. So tell us the new familiar face that you showed off tonight.
So we showed tonight that Wolverine's going to be joining the fray with Spider-Man and Web of Shadows. So,
boy, and it's not exactly a joining of the fray that people would expect, because he's around to help at first, but things take kind of an odd turn, right?
Right. Well, what's going to happen is, again, you're dealing with this kind of alien invasion of the symbiotes, and when you throw Wolverine into the mix and you get Sim Wolverine, things can get pretty ugly.
So we saw what was almost like a traditional old school boss fight, because he seemed to have like a second form and stuff. So can you kind of walk us through what it's like to fight Sim Wolverine?
Well, you just imagine all the powers that Wolverine has, and then you throw in the powers that the symbiote suit gives him, and it's like quadruply hard. So
there you go, and that's a word, probably.
Quadruply.
All right. So we also got to check out some a little bit more low-key levels, I'd say, where you're kind of checking out the city and kind of going through the environment and going through like more traditional type activities. So tell us about the combat system, because now we've had a chance to play it. We've played Dark, we've played Light, and we've kind of gotten a hang for the combat system. Tell us about the combos and the way that that's going to work.
So again, we've really rebuilt the combat system from the ground up. It was really our goal to really kind of merge a lot of the lessons that we had from making extreme sports game and bring that into this action-adventure genre. You have this fluidity of motion and creativity when you're playing an extreme sports game. And we kind of had that idea of like, we never want Spider-Man to stop. We always want him to be constantly moving. So we've designed the combat system to really take advantage of Spider-Man's speed and agility. So basically, you're going to be constantly bouncing off guys, fighting 10 guys at one time, jumping up on walls, fighting them up on walls, hopping down, swinging on poles, jumping down and attacking a new guy, and just constantly moving and just always looking for the next guy to attack.
Very cool. And we also got a sense a little bit of the leveling system and how you're going to earn different kinds of points based on your behavior.
So again, you're gonna be gaining experience throughout the game, and we're kind of borrowing maybe a little from WoW. So you're gonna, every time you defeat a foe, you're gonna get some experience, but then you're also gonna get quests that give you more experience, and all this wraps up into the upgrade system, where it's like you really can customize Spider-Man to really take advantage of the way that you want to fight. So if you're more of like a ground-based brute force black suit dude, you're going to want to upgrade his strength moves. Or you could upgrade the wall moves, whatever you want to do. It's up to the player.
Very nice. And it also affects who's going to basically side with you as you kind of go through the game.
So we take the idea that the black suit is a corrupting force. And the longer that you're in it, the more kind of to the black side you move. And there also are going to be a number of choices that you make throughout the game that have real consequences. And ultimately, that's going to decide who's fighting with you. Either, kind of some of your oldest allies or even some of your oldest foes will be teaming up with you throughout the game.
So, is it going to be a real bad thing if you wind up being a little evil and just hanging out with your enemies?
This is bad. I don't want to be good.
All right. So now, how many endings are you guys going to have? Like your traditional?
There's multiple endings. So really, depending on how you play through the game, it's really going to change the storyline, and you're going to see different endings.
Very cool. And when are we going to be able to get our hands on it?
This fall.
All right, there you go. That is a little snippet on Spider-Man Web of Shadows. We'll have a write-up and whatnot on it real soon.
Hey folks, we're down here in sunny Santa Monica at this Activision event. We're looking at Call of Duty World of War, which you can see going on behind me. They've also got Spider-Man Web of Shadows and Quantum of Solace, the new James Bond game. Let's start with Spider-Man.
Get ready for a world of pain.
Hey guys, I am here with Chris Scholes, who is the studio head at Shaba Games, working on Spider-Man Web of Shadows. So Chris, so Treyarch has been doing Spider-Man games for the last 4 or 5 decades now. So you guys are finally going to take a stab at the franchise. What are you guys doing differently? Are you feeling pressure to branch out on your own and do something different than what Treyarch's been doing?
Shaba's background is in extreme sports games. We did
some Tony Hawk games and Matt Hoffman and Wakeboarding Unleashed. And all the time when we were developing those, it was always in the back of our minds of what it would be so awesome to be having that same sort of experience, except fighting all along the way. So for us, while this is our first Spider-Man game, we've been thinking about this game for about 10 years now. So Spider-Man's the perfect character to really realize this vision because of the way he moves, and it's really what you expect from Spider-Man. So we thought we were able to really bring something new to the franchise that just hasn't existed, not just in a Spider-Man game, but in really any superhero game.
Give us an idea where and who you're drawing from the Marvel Universe, like who some of the characters are, and how are you going to interact with those?
So something we definitely wanted at the start was, again, because we're not really tied to a movie or to a particular storyline, we were able to really be creative about who could be in the game, and we wanted to just have a huge Marvel cast. So you're going to see all sorts of heroes and villains. So you'll see Wolverine and Luke Cage and Kingpin and Vulture and Moon Knight even. So there's tons more too. So it really, I think, for people that really know the Marvel Universe, they'll really dig that because there's all sorts of little details that only like true Marvel fans will pick up on that I hope they like.
Okay, so real quick, tell me who would win in a fight, Spider-Man versus Wolverine?
Is a Sim Wolverine or just normal Wolverine?
Up to you.
Okay. In a life or death fight, I think Spider-Man is better. Come on, he can lift 10 tons.
Sure. Okay, Black Cat versus Mary Jane.
Who has the guns?
Oh, let's give them to Mary Jane.
She's the woman scorned, so yes, I'll say Mary Jane.
All right, good answer. Treyarch versus Shaba.
It's a draw. Come on.
Good diplomatic answer.
In Spider-Man Web of Shadows, a goal we had with the mission structure was to really give the player constant action and always have something exciting for them to be doing. We've structured it with a mix of story missions that really progress the player through the game and intersperse it with tons of city crime stuff. With the city crime, there's always something happening. One of my favorite things to do in the game is just to park myself on the side of a building and just watch all this action happening below me. With this theme of always just constant action, we wanted to minimize the amount of time the player was just swinging from one point to another with nothing in between. At the beginning of Web of Shadows, you start the mission up in Harlem and you're actually doing missions with Luke Cage. And basically huge riots are being sparked, you later find out, by Kingpin. There you see a variety of gang warfare is going on and gangs fighting against cops. And it's really the time for the player to become familiar with the controls of the game. As the player progresses, you start really getting into the symbiote invasion. It starts slow. So there you start noticing just strange things happening. So we call them the hidden sins, but ordinary looking pedestrians doing abnormal things. You start seeing many more Marvel characters, and again, you start getting missions from Wolverine and other guys that you can fight along with you as this invasion is really starting to take hold. The meat of the game all centers around combat. With that, you sprinkle in a bunch of different ways of really highlighting that combat. So there's rescue missions there where people will be stranded on top of buildings waiting for an evacuation, and you have to kind of go on a perimeter around the building as symbiotes are climbing up the sides of it and keep the people on the top enough time to be airlifted out. There's escort missions where you have to bring civilians out from dangerous zones and bring them to shield safe zones. Things like that to really, again, keep the focus on the combat, but give you other objectives to be doing along the way. In Web of Shadows, our philosophy behind the collectibles that we have in the game was we wanted really the player to be able to see the next collectible from the one that he just got. And it really becomes this addictive thing where the second you land on a building and pick one up, you're already looking around for the next one. The reward for giving them is meaningful. You upgrade a number of your stats, like your swinging speed, your health and your special meters. So there's a real motivation for picking these up. One of the main drivers the player has in the game is really this drive to upgrade the character. There's dozens and dozens of moves for both the red suit and the black suit that you can upgrade. And you use the experience that you get for having all these different fights and completing missions. They all go into an experience pool that you then use to upgrade your character. So that just gives you a little look at the world and the structure of Spider-Man Web of Shadows, and I hope you guys all enjoy it and be looking for it on the shelves on all the platforms later this fall. The game is not based on a movie or on a comic book series. It really lives somewhere in between. You're going to find him in the midst of a big alien invasion of all of New York. We've really rebuilt Manhattan from the ground up. One of the main features we really wanted to add is as much destruction as possible. Storefronts are exploding and light posts are getting knocked off, and you can actually pick up all the cars in the city and chuck them at enemies. When you have a character that moves as dynamically and can be on any surface as Spider-Man, really crafting a camera that doesn't make you nauseous and really captures the action was really one of our biggest challenges.
I'm feeling hungry.
One of the main features we wanted to do with the combat system was to have a very deep combat system, but not make it this button memorization game. Just by switching the black suit, basically doubles the amount of moves that the player can have. Spider-Man's such a unique character. I mean, he's been an icon for 40 years. And so the pressure we felt making the game was to really live up to fans' expectations, and they really want a game that really delivers on all fronts. And so for us, it was a frantic couple years of just really hard work to really deliver what we think is the best Spider-Man game ever made. You're going to be able to see Spider-Man Web of Shadows on all platforms on October 21st. This is the first superhero game where you really can fight the way that you always dreamed that hero could fight. So it is a marriage of, like we have been able to marry the movement with combat for the first time in a way that I really haven't seen in any game ever. The great thing about Spider-Man is there's so many things that he can do. So there's this wealth of ways that you can take him in different ways. Probably the challenging part was there's so many things that he can do. So making that all work together, it's a real challenge, especially when you talk about things like the camera, where it's like, man, I cannot imagine a character that it would be harder to do the camera for, because he could be on any surface, looking at anything. I really think that we've come up with a lot of good solutions to deal with that. That just moving the camera away from Spider-Man being the target has just been key to freeing him up, so you're not always looking at his ass in the center of the screen, and freeing him up to kind of move around the screen has been huge. In this game, you have the black suit, and the ability to really switch on the fly between the red and the black suit. And we got into the whole concept of the black suit's this corrupting force. So you have a morality meter, and the more things you do in the black suit, the more you move kind of to the dark side. There's also a number of decisions you make along the way that really affect that meter greatly, and have like ramifications to the story. So it will change the story. It has a number of other effects, like it. The more on the black side you are, the citizens react to you with fear, and cops are hostile to you.
It changes some of their text, doesn't it, too? Some of what he says.
Yeah. And probably the biggest difference is that there's a bunch of other Marvel heroes and villains, and if you're more on the dark side, then the villains will actually come and help you out, whereas if you're kind of more on the red path, then the heroes will ally with you. You definitely can play as pure red suit or pure black suit, and the advantage with that is each suit has a different real strengths and weaknesses that the more you play, the more you can pick up on that and get strategies of using that. But you can also just pop between suit to suit, and there's actually just that's there's all sorts of strategies involved with that. You know, I like to be in the red suit that has more web-based moves.
For certain parts.
And web up a guy, and then mid-combo switch to black suit and finish him off. When you want to actually bring fights up onto the wall, it's a whole host of other issues. You know, it's a lot of camera issues you have to work with, a lot of pathing and AI issues, because now it's like, God, enemies can go anywhere. So it is a real challenge, but we thought that inherently that was Spider-Man, you know? So if we weren't able to do that, you know, it was early on, it was kind of a mantra for us. It's like, you're gonna fight in the streets, up on walls, and through the air. So that was really something we emphasized, to the point that we have a combo meter that acts as a multiplier to the experience you get. And if in one combo you can take a fight from the street to the wall to the air, you get an extra multiplier to your experience. So it's something we really emphasize. So to really make it a sense of like, you know, it wasn't just Spider-Man involved. You know, like New York's being taken over. You know, so we really wanted to bring in all the other Marvel characters that we could into the story, to see how they would be playing their part in this. So we have tons of a huge Marvel cast. We have Wolverine and Luke Cage and Kingpin and Vulture and Moon Knight, and a ton more. Yeah. And they all play a part in the game, and to the point that you're actually able to, once you've encountered them, you can, and depending on your alignment, you can actually call them in to help you in fights. So it's really cool to just be able to fight alongside Wolverine. We have a really strong idea of what we want to do at Shaba, and that's like, we want to stay making superhero games and really become the best in the world at doing it. So we've got just a ton of ideas of where to take Marvel characters.
Spider-Man Web of Shadows isn't tied to a movie, so it gave us a lot of creative freedom to really craft the story we thought best fit the type of game that we wanted to make. It necessitated Spider-Man being able to fight literally hundreds of people. They all also had to have very similar abilities to Spider-Man, so that's really where we kind of struck on, what if it was this huge symbiote invasion, so that virtually everyone you see in the street is an enemy. You could literally have Spider-Man bouncing from one enemy to the next. The game starts off, the city's in a pristine, happy New York state, and you get to see it evolve slowly as it's being taken over, until at the end it's just huge symbiote pods where spewing out a lot of the enemies, and big hives of just kind of symbiote ichor is what we call it, that just covers and goes in between the different buildings, and it really looks taken over. In the game, Spider-Man has a moment where he realizes that this invasion is happening in secret, and he's been seeing all sorts of crazy stuff left and right, but he finally puts it together what's happening, and very quickly things start spiraling out of control. People running through the streets. We have S.H.I.E.L.D. fly in. They start quarantining huge areas, trying to evacuate people through airlifts.
I have orders, sir. Manhattan is under quarantine.
You're really caught up in the middle of this, and everyone in the entire city is as well. A lot of your favorite Marvel heroes and villains are all in the mix. It's going to culminate in this one final battle for New York, where you're going to have to decide who you team up with, either some of Marvel's biggest heroes or even some of his oldest adversaries. Spider-Man is facing an entire army of symbiotes, which are the black suit that spawn Venom and Carnage and a host of others. This invasion is just overwhelming all of New York and engulfing all of the residents, and it really pulls in all the other heroes and villains in the city into this just gigantic war. So early on in the game, Venom learns that he has the ability to clone himself, and he surreptitiously has been going around the city and infecting all the citizens. You will actually see people being dragged off and thrown into these hive-like pods where they kind of create more symbiotes that go out and grab more people. It's bad enough when a normal civilian gets taken over by a symbiote, but when a sim grabs onto a hero, obviously it's quadruply dangerous. So in the game, you'll actually see Wolverine being overcome by a symbiote and becoming a sim version of Wolverine. One of the most satisfying aspects of the game is seeing the city actually transform from this pristine New York to this really devastated, alien-ridden environment. Really gives it a very eerie tone to the entire game. So that gives you a little hint of this symbiote invasion that's hit New York. It's coming out on all platforms later this fall. The combat system in Web of Shadows is where we spent the bulk of the time in development, and really encompasses so many different avenues of game development. Our idea was craft a combat system where the player is constantly moving. So we wanted the player to be bouncing off of enemy to enemy, jumping up on walls, jumping off, hitting a guy up in the air, fighting in the air, web swinging to a different guy. It's just this constant flow, much the same as if you were doing a line in Tony Hawk. I have been playing for 1,000 hours, and it is this constant Zen-like thing to just get back and just fight 20 guys, and it is something that's just endlessly fun that I'm really proud of. One of the real innovative moves that we have, we call the web strike. That's really a move where you latch onto an opponent with your webs and pull yourself towards him, and then right at the moment of impact, you have to basically hit another attack button in much way like it's a timing mechanism, like a golf swing almost. It's just something that when you do it and you hit the guy, it just feels right. It really feels like you hit him. So it really is about as far as from a button masher as you can make something. The black suit is much more focused on brute strength and kind of brutality. We've made a lot of the moves context sensitive. So while X on the ground is your X chain and does some awesome ground attacks, if you jump up in the air, it does a host of other air attacks. The advanced players, as you move throughout the game, are really going to have to learn to master blocking and countering to really get through some of the tougher boss fights. As you upgrade your character, you not only can purchase brand new moves, but you can also increase the ability of moves that you've already purchased. So that's a look at the combat system, and we're really excited about it, so I hope you guys like it too.
My name is Chris Scholes. I'm the studio head of Shaba Games. One of the things we're trying to do with this game is really revamp the combat system. We wanted to give the franchise a core that we felt had been lacking. It had always been great and incredibly fun. What we wanted to do was allow people to fight the way everybody envisioned Spider-Man being able to fight.
One of the things that we really wanted to improve on was previous Spider-Man games had really felt like the swinging and the combat were two separate elements. And one of our biggest focuses was to try and marry the two together so that you can actually fight while you're moving.
Our biggest achievement and invention that we've done with this game is taking enemies from the ground, taking them to the wall, and then to the air, and doing this full circle of ground, wall, air combat. It's really never been seen in a game before.
We're trying to leave it up to the player to decide the style of play that they want. You'll be able to chain as many attacks as you could possibly fit in, switching between red and black suit at any time.
Shaba's been trying to make this brand new kind of different 3D combat system for like over 10 years, and this is our first chance to do it. In a weird way, it was sort of like fate coming together, finally. We couldn't really think of a better way of expressing what we wanted to do with combat without having Spider-Man there.
The storyline's kind of a unique thing that was actually driven by a lot of the gameplay elements. We started off with a lot of the gameplay ideas first, and the story kind of came out of that. The goal was to create, something that was very immersive as far as being a real Spider-Man experience, where the player could actually get the sense of being Spider-Man, that hero, the wall crawler, fighting on the walls and in the air. And so to really make that work, we needed to give him challenges, on the walls and in the air, and opponents that would work that way. And so, of course, you've got to kind of put some really capable enemies, and the whole symbiote invasion ended up being a really great fit because we kind of got to take, all the millions of people in Manhattan and just make them, super villains. My favorite villain is probably the Black Cat, even though she's not really a villain. The way you encounter her is kind of under somewhat dubious circumstances. You've got to track her down and confront her, and you end up fighting against her. And what I think is a really cool rooftop battle. Again, you're on the walls and on the roof, and you can throw her off, and she'll use her grappling hook to zip back, and she's kind of flying up in the air at you, and you kind of have these great aerial duels with her. If you play your cards right, you end up, kind of then becoming her friend, and she'll join you in the fight later on. That's one of my personal favorite encounters. We want the game player to feel like they are playing as Spider-Man, and so there are a lot of things, kind of flow from that. Number one is, if you'll see Spider-Man in the comics, he's always like hanging upside down or on a wall, but the frame is kind of, the world's right side up. Throughout the game, you can there are different upgrade paths to take. You can power up one suit, or different features of one suit as opposed to the other. And you can and you can switch at any time, so you can actually, if you want to, create a hybrid where you've got really strong crowd control abilities in the red suit, but really strong melee abilities in the black suit. You can do that, and then in any given fight, use the strengths and avoid the weaknesses of either suit, just to kind of create the experience that you want.
Working with Spider-Man, the first thing that we wanted to do was, we knew that the camera was the main interface, and the controller, but the camera really frames all the action. And one thing that we wanted to do is make sure that the player got a sense of that. So the first thing that we did is we made some camera adjustments, really tried to frame the action that was on screen. We have a feature where you can lock onto enemies by tapping the left trigger. When you do that, it basically focuses the camera on an enemy. Spider-Man can then swing around, but the camera pivots, keeping Spider-Man and the enemy on screen. So then you can just focus on timing. You can really focus on what type of move that you want to do. I've heard people say oh, that's one of the few times I've actually seen a game like this actually look like a comic book panel.
Hi, this is Ash Awas with Rescued by Nerds, and we're here with Marvel writer Brian Reed. Brian, how's it going today?
Going very well.
Great, so you've been announced on quite a few things in the last day or so, haven't you?
I'm a little busy, yes.
So let's start off with the new Spider-Man game, Web of Shadows. Is it going to take place in the same universe as the previous Spider-Man game?
It is kind of based on the comic book universe to some extent, more so than the movies. In fact, it's not a movie thing at all. But there's so many things I'm not allowed to talk about with it. I don't know. But it's drawing more from the comic books than anything else.
You got your early work with Marvel through working with Bendis on the Spider-Man game, is that correct?
Yes.
So how does it feel like going back to that kind of writing after being in comics for a while?
I really never left it. I was always doing game writing on the side. Out of Ultimate Spider-Man, I started writing Spider-Man Friend or Foe that came out last year. Then this last year I've been writing Mercenaries 2, and I just wrapped up working on the Spider-Man web. What are they calling it now?
Web of Shadows?
Yeah, it had a different title the whole time I'm working on it.
Nice.
So it was called Red vs. Black the whole time I'm working on it. And now when I go to talk about it, I'm like, what is it called?
Wait, is that maybe a Venom sort of hint or something?
You saw the video.
Yeah.
And you saw what was all over that building.
That's true.
So.
Symbiotes have taken over New York, and Spider-Man is out to stop them, but Spider-Man gets infected himself, so he gets the black suit back that he had once upon a time. And it's up to you as the player to decide if you're going to be using his red and blue suit or his black suit, because each of them come with different power sets and different abilities, and as the game goes on, you'll actually affect the plot. A lot of this is being very loyal to the idea of the Spider-Man universe, so we see a lot of characters that he interacts with in the comics. This doesn't necessarily fit into the continuity, but it's definitely a part of that world that we're all used to seeing over all these years. I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was 6 years old, so for me it was a lot of, here's this cool Spider-Man idea I've got that I get to write now, yay! The real fun for me with this game was when I realized that what they wanted to make was a zombie movie. And Spider-Man in a zombie movie just seemed like fun to me. And as this infection spreads and there are more and more symbiotes in the city, it's really what it becomes, is this big scary monster movie, and that was just fun. Thematically, it's got that same feel as a Day of the Dead kind of movie where these monsters have overrun the city, and what we used to know as civilization just isn't there anymore. And as the story goes on, that's very much what New York becomes. I was playing it tonight, and I actually got sidetracked just enjoying the combat and just enjoying swinging around the city, and I got excited. This thing that I worked on months ago, seeing it come to life, and it was fun. This Spider-Man game is the next in a long line of what have been really great Spider-Man games, and each successive one is getting more and more like the Spider-Man experience you want. And this one, the combat is, oh my god, when I was lead designer on Ultimate Spider-Man, this is what we wanted to do, and we didn't figure out how to do it. Like, we didn't have the technology to pull it off. And these guys have got it, and I'm so totally jealous that they're the ones who figured it out. And just the navigation, you know, always being able to swing around the city is always fun in all the games, but this one, the city feels more alive, it looks more real. It's just, I had a blast when I sat down to play it tonight, so I'm excited to play the finished game just as much as anybody else. It's out this fall. It's Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, so it's everywhere you want it to be.
Hi, this is Brian Morrison. I'm the associate producer on Spider-Man Web of Shadows for 360. Right now I'm going to show you guys a little glimpse of the Vulture battle with Spidey. Right now, Adrian Toomes is out in the middle, out above the skyscraper. I'm going to use Spidey's new ability with his web strikes to reach the Toomes who's clear out in the distance. And I'm going to leapfrog from one of these gliders to another to reach Toomes. And then I'm going to use a variety of different web strikes to keep Toomes off balance so that I can lean in and get hits on him. The Vulture here, his wing is made up by a series of blades. And as I move in to attack him, his blades will sort of come unstuck. And at that point I can do a number of throws, hits, kicks, punches, anything I can do to kind of stop Vulture during this boss battle.
Get ready for a world of pain!
Spider-Man Web of Shadows is the latest video game to be released based on the comic hero series. Game enthusiasts can explore the powers of both the red suit and black suit Spider-Man to stop an invasion of aliens in New York. Activision associate producer Brian Morrison flew in from Los Angeles to give a special preview of the game in Madrid on Tuesday.
The game revolves around Spider-Man, but the story explores both the red suit Spider-Man and the black suit Spider-Man. There's an invasion in New York City, and Spider-Man has to use the powers of both the red suit and the black suit to combat an invasion of aliens in New York.
Web of Shadows is a single-player storyline based on the comic book. Developed by Shaba Games and published by Activision, the video game will be released on the 24th of October.
Joining us today from Activision is senior executive producer Graham Fuchs. Graham, thanks so much for stopping by and bringing Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Now, a lot of the Spider-Man games have been movie-based. There is no movie now, so where's the inspiration drawing from for this game?
Well, so this is an all-original story. It's based on the comic books. It was created specifically for this title. Brian Reed, who's a Marvel writer, wrote some of the Secret Invasion stuff that's happening now, helped us out with the story. We created this specifically for the game and the type of game we wanted to make, so we were able to craft the story around the gameplay and the mechanics that we wanted to include in the game.
All right, and the gameplay is what I want to get to. What is the sequence we're looking at right now?
Well, so this is a battle right here with Black Cat. She and her tech gang are fighting Spider-Man. You can see some of the new combat mechanics in the game. One of the things that we added was, we wanted to add combat on the walls. We wanted to add aerial combat. And so some of these gang members can run on walls. Some of them have, flyers. We wanted to be able to just make the combat play like it does in the comics and the film. So you could start a fight on the ground, fight all the way up a wall, knock a guy off a roof, and then fight him all the way back down to the ground again.
You're really using all three of the axes. Now, that would sound like it would make it very complicated on the control side, but I have a feeling that's not the case.
Yeah, we actually did a lot of work on the camera. That's been a problem in previous Spider-Man games. When you have all the fully 3D world that you have to manage the camera in, it's a little difficult. But so we put a locked-in camera now, so when you're locked onto your enemy, no matter what you do, wherever you're jumping around, if you're on the wall, if you're in the air, it's always going to keep him in the center of the screen. So it actually, not only does it make it so that you never lose your enemy off screen, but it just makes all of your battles look really cinematic since the action's always focused right in on it.
Now, also we have the benefit of varying suits with varying powers that can also be upgraded. How is that going to be affecting the gameplay?
Well, so we gave the players the ability this time to switch between the red suit and the black suit anytime they wanted, and we wanted to make the two suits feel very different. So the red suit is much more acrobatic and web-based, and the black suit is much more strength and power-based. And as you're playing through the game, you're earning experience, which you can then use to upgrade either suit. And you can upgrade any aspect of each suit that you want. So if you find yourself using the webs more, you can, upgrade the webs in your red suit. If you find yourself, using your strength more, you can upgrade, sort of your ground moves in your black suit, or you can upgrade the faster punches on your red suit. It just really really gives the players the ability to build the type of Spider-Man they want to build.
Now, also, this game is also about choice a little bit. There are different paths you can take and how you're going to be playing the game. What are those decisions you need to be making, and how is that going to be altering the outcome of the game?
Well, so the suits, in addition to just different combat styles, it also reflects how you're behaving during the game. So are you being more of a hero in the red suit? You're being more of an anti-hero in the black suit. The black suit moves cause a lot more collateral damage, and that'll be reflected back to you by the citizens of New York. If you're destroying buildings and causing all sorts of chaos, people will be a little more wary of you when they see you. If you're in the red suit, being more of a hero, people will be cheering you as you go by. But also at various points during the game, there's going to be decisions that you have to make. Are you going to make a red choice or a black choice at some place during the story? And that's going to affect whether the various heroes and villains that you come into contact with throughout the game are going to be on your side or against you as you're battling this conflict.
And what are some of the superpowers that we can look forward to as well inside Web of Shadows?
Well, you're going to have the red suit has a whole host of web abilities. You've got the web shield and these fun web nuggets to slow guys down, whereas the black suit doesn't have web abilities. He's got tentacles that you can use to grab people from far away and bring them in to punch them. You can use them to grab them and slam them on the ground. So it's just a lot of sort of different aspects to the various suits. It's pretty cool.
Now, we have seen some Wolverine and Venom. What other Marvel characters can we look forward to see inside of Web of Shadows?
Oh, yeah, there's a whole bunch of, we got a whole bunch of heroes and villains. I mean, in the game, the New York City is invaded by the symbiotes, and they start to take over the city, and all the other heroes and villains in the city are battling these symbiotes, too, so you're going to run into Luke Cage and Kingpin, S.H.I.E.L.D., Electro, a couple of others coming up.
The whole gang is there,
yeah,
which makes me even more excited than I was ahead of time. Graham, thank you so much for stopping by. Now,
this is a whole new combat system in this title. Something that we really wanted to do was to take was to make Spider-Man fight more like he fights in the comics and the movies. So what we've added is combat on the walls and combat in the air. So you can actually start a fight on the ground, fight a guy all the way up the side of a wall, knock him off the roof, and then fight him, all the way back down to the ground again. And we design the enemies around those ideas. So we've got enemies that crawl on walls. We've got tech enemies that have sort of jet boards that they fly around on. So, we wanted you to face groups of guys that actually have all those different elements in them to encourage you to use the new combat system. What we wanted to do is we actually wanted to take the game this time around and make more of it happen in the city, as opposed to in interiors or in in special levels. So most of the game actually takes place in the streets. You want to have those big superhero battles where like you can fight a guy all the way up several city blocks. If you're fighting, we've got these big sort of tech mechs in the game that you can throw cars at, and if you're going to fight those guys, it's going to take you several blocks worth of fighting to defeat them. So really, that was the whole goal, was to keep you in the city and sort of expand the city itself and make it the level of the game. We've added a whole new level of destructibility to the city as well, which kind of plays into the whole red suit and black suit. So if you're doing more of the black suit moves, they're much more destructive. You're going to cause a lot more collateral damage. So you can see also the black suit, like he'll pick up cars, he'll throw them at people, but also he could pick up mailboxes and parking meters. Any of that stuff that's around could be used as a weapon. Your sort of training area is Harlem, where there's a gang war going on. You run into Luke Cage, and he winds up being sort of your mentor. He teaches you a couple of the new mechanics and the new moves in the game, which you do while you're fighting this gang war in Harlem. And as that happens, the game starts actually with a big battle with Venom, who you have a big fight with. You reacquire the black suit, only now this time Spider-Man's able to change between the red suit and the black suit at will, and it's sort of, a new mechanic, kind of weird. But Venom, has disappeared after that. So after the gang war, you start to move neighborhood by neighborhood through the city, with each neighborhood sort of having its own unique enemies with different abilities, and people start to act a little crazy, not sure what's happening in the world, and then kind of monsters start appearing, and finally there's a full-blown sim invasion of New York, where S.H.I.E.L.D. declares martial law and evacuates the civilians out of the city, and it's just all Sims all throughout the city. Occasionally you'll see civilians running from Sims, and you got to save them, but it's all, everybody you see is going to be an enemy at that point. So yeah, it's really cool. And we really didn't want to force the player to have to play one way or the other way. So, most of the encounters can be approached multiple ways. If you're fighting a tech mech, if you have the black suit, you can throw a car at him. If you have the red suit, you can use your swing kicks to hurt him. So we just wanted to give the player the ability to sort of to play according to their game style. If you want to buy more web moves, you can do more of the distance moves. If you want to buy more like the black tentacle attacks, that's more of the crowd clearing moves. So you really should be able to, you should be able to approach most scenarios the way you want to. and that's really how we've created the suits and the upgrade system. The swinging mechanic, I mean, that's always a favorite in the Spider-Man games. Just something that we continue to refine and polish. Something that you'll see in this game. You know, the Shaba, the developer, has done a lot of the extreme sports games in the past, and they really wanted to bring that sort of fluidity of motion that you see in those games, how you're able to kind of continually move and do tricks off of anything in the environment. They actually brought that to the swinging and to the combat system. You know, it's one of the new things in the combat system as well is the web strike, and the web strike is the ability to sort of target an enemy and then use your webs to come in and you know, basically pull yourself towards the enemy, and then you can then you pick an attack, and you can cause damage, you can do an area effect, you can throw him, but you're then able to create essentially a line of enemies. So you can bounce from this guy, and then find your next enemy while you're in the air, target him, and then use the web strike to go directly to him, bounce to the next guy, and so on and so forth. So you can actually just create these huge lines of enemies in this constant, and we bonus you for doing that. You know, with the combo system, you'll get additional XP for the longer your combo string is. Different enemies have different abilities, so you know, you've certainly got your larger enemies that are, you know, they're enemies that you're going to want to use more of your your advanced moves on to kind of, you know, if you run into a Sim Heavy who's, you know, this huge 12-foot tall monster, if you run in to try and punch him, you're probably not going to be successful, but if you use your webs to slow him down before you go in and do that, you have a much better chance of success. And obviously it's a big open city game. Looking at the 12-foot guys as opposed to the 5-foot guys, it's pretty clear who the more dangerous one is. You know, allows you to use a little bit of strategy as you're approaching a group of enemies and like, ooh, that guy looks like he's trouble. Maybe I gotta be careful of him. The symbiote invasion covers the whole city, so it also affects all of the other heroes and villains that are in New York City. So as you're playing the game, you're going to come into contact with a lot of other characters from the Marvel Universe. The way that plays out is, you know, the red suit and the black suit aren't just combat style choices. It's also kind of reflecting your morality in the game. If you're behaving more like a hero, using the red suit more, you know, the people of New York are going to cheer you. If you're using the black suit more, it causes a lot more collateral damage. It's sort of the by any means necessary approach. The people will be afraid of you. But depending on whether you've been being more red or more black, as you encounter these heroes and villains, it's going to determine who is on your side and who's against you as you're playing through the game. So, which gives you the ability to, you have branching storylines, and if you play through the game, you know, making some red choices or making some black choices, you'll have a different experience each time you play it. We got a lot of heroes and villains in the game. You know, you've got some obviously very well-known people like Wolverine and some fan favorites like Moon Knight and Luke Cage. On the villain side, you know, Kingpin is sort of the opposing force to S.H.I.E.L.D. He's trying to clean up the city for his own reasons, but you'll also encounter Vulture and Electro, and a couple of other bad guys. So yeah, it's pretty fun. Hi, I'm Graham Fuchs, Senior Executive Producer at Activision. I'm going to walk you through a couple of minutes of Spider-Man Web of Shadows here. So the very first thing that Shaba wanted to do when they got the project was to totally revamp the combat system. They wanted to make it so that you could fight more like Spider-Man fights in the films and in the comics, which meant adding combat on the walls and combat in the air. This level is actually a really good example of that. You can see these the tech gang that you're actually fighting has enemies that can run up the walls, and they also have enemies with gliders. And you'll notice you can actually go seamlessly from wall to air to ground, which was always the goal with the combat system. If you'll notice, you're actually gaining experience every time you defeat an enemy, and every hit you get is counted in your combo counter. And we actually bonus you for going from wall to air to ground. The experience that you're earning, you actually get to use to upgrade your suits and your abilities. You'll notice that you can change at any time between the red suit and the black suit, and each suit has totally different moves. You know, the red suit's more web-based and acrobatic. Black suit is more strength and power. The goal is really to allow the player then to customize each suit and their abilities so they can play the way they want to play, you know, kind of design the Spider-Man that suits their play style. You know, do they use more webs, more of the distance attacks? Do they use more of the fists and fighting up close? Throughout the game, you're going to come into contact with lots of other heroes and villains from the Marvel Universe in New York City. You're fighting Black Cat. The city in this game has also been completely rebuilt from the ground up. You know, we've added a whole new level of destructibility. So as you're playing the game, if you're playing, you know, the black suit, using more of the destructive moves, you're going to be causing a lot more collateral damage.
Are you okay? I told you to lay off. This place has all the telltale signs of a secret base. Is this your new line of work? Goblins are us?
Leave now while you still can.
I'm glad you found work within the...
So throughout the game, you're going to encounter a lot of heroes and villains in New York from the Marvel Universe. We've got some well-known villains and heroes, some fan favorites as well. But what was great is we were actually able to take some of the classic villains and reinterpret them. This here obviously is Vulture, but he's been redesigned by the artist at Shaba. He's a little more threatening from the comics. He's got these big feathered wings. But we've kind of changed those into magnetic blades that you can then shoot at Spider-Man. It's a little more threatening. This is another example of the enemies were chosen to suit the gameplay that we wanted to have in the game. We wanted to have this whole aerial combat system in the game. So obviously having Vulture to fight, he's a perfect guy that you fight in the air. And all these moves that are happening here are, it's up to the player to keep themselves aloft, keep them in the air. You can actually use Vulture as a swing point. If you use the new web strike system, you want to draw yourself into Vulture so you can attack him and fight him in the air. And that's really all, it's all up to the player. If you actually miss any of those connections or you don't web him, then you're going to fall to the ground. This is a fun part where you beat Vulture up a little bit, and he's a little more afraid of you, so he stays way out there in space and sends his minions in to attack you. But if you use the web strike system, you can actually use them as stepping stones to make it all the way out to Vulture, out there in midair, and beat the crap out of him. And again, this is a good vantage point to see the city. It's been completely rebuilt over past games, and we've added a whole new level of destructibility to it. So now you can pick up items in the environment and throw them at enemies. If you're actually using the black suit and throwing cars around, that's going to create all sorts of havoc and break things. So during the game, the plot of the game is that the symbiotes invade New York City. Starts off kind of everything is nice and fine in the city, and then sort of people start to act strangely. Occasional reports of strange creatures appearing in the city, which finally grows into a full-blown invasion of New York. S.H.I.E.L.D. comes in, declares martial law, and evacuates people from the city. And then they're trying to rescue the civilians remaining. And pretty much when you're in the city at this point, all you're going to encounter are a city full of enemies. Again, that was kind of something that was a design goal from the beginning of the game. It's like, boy, we've got this big open city, and wouldn't it be great if you had to fight everybody you see? So that was kind of the idea behind having these Sims infect the entire city of New York, which just allows you to have these huge battles in the street full of tons of enemies. As you can see, S.H.I.E.L.D. is also in the city here, trying to help you fight the enemies. If you go uptown, you'll see Kingpin's men trying to fight the Sims as well. He wants to stop the invasion for his own selfish purposes. And again, this was how the game design and the story all fit together. It was just what can we do to make a city full of enemies that can fly and that can crawl on walls and that can kind of really go toe to toe with Spider-Man. In previous games, there've been a lot of thugs that just were no match for Spider-Man's abilities. So you wound up being able to do just fine by punching them. Whereas here now you've got more of the enemies. You're really going to have to use your acrobatic abilities and your webs. Approach each encounter more strategically, depending on the makeup of the enemies that you're encountering. you know, the game's based on the comics, so not the film, so it really gives you the ability to bring in the elements that we wanted to bring in. So, you know, we had the freedom to craft the story and pick the enemies and pick pick who's going to be in it and not be in it. So, you know, if there was something that you wanted to do, you know, you're not forced to kind of focus on any one particular villain or anything like that. So, it's pretty. It was pretty liberating. You know, we're really happy with how this game turned out. We think what we're presenting here is kind of the Spider-Man game that fans have been clamoring for a long time. You know, you've got this great open city environment and this brand new combat system. You know, you're going to be encountering all sorts of heroes and villains from the Marvel universe, and you know, just watching this whole kind of invasion take place and New York City starting to decay over time. We think it's a pretty unique experience that people are going to be really happy with. So Web of Shadows is available October 21st. Go check it out.
Okay, so I'm in line to audition for a voiceover for the new Spider-Man game, Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Now, I'm going to go into this little soundproof booth, and I'm going to cheer for Spider-Man. And if I'm really lucky, I'm going to be in the game. Woo! Thanks, Spider-Man! You're the best. I owe you my life. Okay, sure. Thanks, Spider-Man. Wow, you're the best. I owe you my life. Well, I am here at the Activision booth with Graham Fuchs, who is the executive producer of the new Spider-Man game, Spider-Man Web of Shadows. You can probably see it behind me, being all cool and dark. Graham, I appreciate you spending some time with me. What I want to know most is the storyline. This is obviously not following a movie storyline. What can you tell me about what's going on behind us?
Yeah, this is all original storyline. It's based on the comic book universe, but it doesn't follow any particular comic book arc. It's our own original story. But as you can see, New York's been invaded. S.H.I.E.L.D. has declared martial law. They're downtown trying to evacuate citizens from the city. Luke Cage is uptown gathering people for a last stand there. Kingpin is holed up in his fortress in Midtown. He's trying to gather his forces to fight the invaders, and it's up to the player, Spider-Man, to determine how they want to take on this invasion. Wow, so you've got pretty much everyone in New York in the Marvel Universe banding together to try to defeat this ultimate evil or whatever? Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of heroes, a whole lot of villains. Really what we've done is we've given the player control over how it is they're going to approach this problem. They can either, take the more heroic path, and the citizens of New York will kind of cheer them on, or you can take more the by any means necessary path, and the citizens will then be a little more leery of them. And that's going to affect as you kind of come into contact with these heroes and villains throughout the story, whether they're going to be kind of with you or against you. Wow, oh, well, that's a new element that I've never seen in a Spider-Man game. That's very exciting. So, I don't know if you're able to or not, but can you tell me anything about this new enemy and what's going on with that? Well, that's still under wraps at the moment. You can just go to the boards. There seems to be a lot of speculation about that, so there's some interesting theories. Oh, we've already been theorizing over there in our little corner. Okay, well, I didn't think you'd be able to tell me, but I had to give it a shot. So, is the gameplay going to be any different than, say, the movie licensed games, or is it going to control the same? What can you tell me about that? So we've completely redone the combat system in this game. What we really wanted to do is take advantage of the verticality of the city, not just the width as we had in previous games. Our combat designer calls this the most 3D game ever. So now you're actually going to be able to start a fight on the ground, fight your way up the side of a building, and then wind up on the rooftop. It's pretty cool. Obviously, you're going to be able to bounce around Manhattan. Is it going to open up any of the other boroughs? No, it takes place all in Manhattan, but it's a big open world game. We've totally rebuilt the city. As you can see from the trailer here, that's all in-game footage. It's not a pre-rendered cutscene or anything. So the city looks amazing, and it's from all the way from Harlem to Battery Park. So the city's at your disposal. Sweet. Will I be able to go to my apartment? It's on 100th Street and 1st Avenue. We actually put your apartment in specifically. I thought I saw you guys outside my window. Okay, awesome.
And then the other big question that I've got is, are there going to be, aside from the main storyline, I know in the movie license titles, there were a little side quests like, oh, you know, deliver these pizzas, or oh, fetch my cat out of a tree, or oh, help all these citizens. Is any of that going to take part in this game?
There's certainly going to be sandbox elements in the game. We're not going to have you delivering any pizzas or anything, but yeah, there'll be plenty of stuff to do.
Okay, excellent. Well, it sounds very exciting. When can we look forward to this maybe hitting store shelves?
This will be out in the fall.
That's pretty soon, but not soon enough. Awesome. Graham, hey, I really appreciate you taking some time to talk with us, and I'm very excited.
So Greg Walrod here with the Geek Squad. Alongside of me, Double Agent Derek Meister. And we are actually here at the Spider-Man Web of Shadows booth. Basically, what Agent Meister and I are about to do is we've kind of gotten pretty big here, you know. People are wanting us to audition for things now. So we're actually going to go in and audition to be on the Spider-Man Web of Shadows video game. Basically, we're going to go in there and kind of just read a few lines and show them what we got. So that's it.
Let's go.
And I'm standing here with Graham, who works with Activision, who is actually going to talk to me a little bit about Spider-Man Web of Shadows, a new game coming out here in fall 2008. So tell me a little bit about the game.
Well, New York's been invaded. S.H.I.E.L.D. has declared martial law. They're downtown trying to evacuate citizens from the island. Luke Cage is uptown trying to get heroes together to fight the invaders. Kingpin's located in Midtown. He's trying to get villains together. And it's basically up to the player, Spider-Man, to decide how he's going to help end this invasion in New York.
Okay, so is there any type of new characters or anything that we can look out for? Or?
Well, there's a lot of heroes and villains in the game. You know, some of the popular, some of your more well-known heroes and villains from the Spider-Man universe. But we've also kind of picked a few fan favorites that haven't been in other Spider-Man games before.
Okay, can you hint on any of those characters by chance?
Well, no, they're keeping them under wraps for right now. But yeah, I think the fans will be pretty excited to see some of them.
Okay, so some fan favorites going in there. So is it going to be a big online multiplayer game or kind of more single user? Or?
It's a single player game. It's kind of open world game like in previous Spider-Man. You have all of New York to swing around in, for all the way from from Harlem to Battery Park. Something we really added to this game is that we want to take advantage of the verticality of the city. So we've got a whole new combat system where now actually you can start fighting on the ground, fight a guy all the way up the side of a wall, onto the roof of a building. Like it's really just our lead combat designer calls it the most 3D game ever.
And there's kind of like the hero side of Spider-Man, kind of like the cross. You can kind of go through the game and decide if you're going to be a hero or kind of more the dark side of Spider-Man.
Well, it's, as you're playing through the game, there's a lot of you have a lot of control over what's happening and what how you're going to kind of play from moment to moment, and those decisions will affect basically how the city perceives you. So if you're being more heroic, they're going to cheer you on. They're going to be excited to see you. If you're playing, doing more the by any means necessary route, they're going to be a little more fearful of you. And when you come into contact with these other heroes and villains in the game, how you've behaved up until then is going to decide maybe whether they are with you or against you.
Awesome. So you heard it here first from Geek Squad at New York Comic Con. Spider-Man Web of Shadows coming out fall 2008. Look for it on Xbox 360, PS3, all the major consoles. Thank you.
New York Comic Con. Name we forgot there. 08 here at the Javits, and we're here at Activision with Graham Fuchs. What's up, Graham?
Not much.
So what's going on with Activision?
Well, we're here announcing Spider-Man Web of Shadows. It's a new Spider-Man title based on the comic book universe. New York's been invaded, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has declared martial law. It's helping evacuate people from the city. Luke Cage is organizing a last stand up in Harlem. Kingpin is marshaling his forces in Midtown. And it's up to the player to decide how he's going to help repel the invasion.
Now, do you get to travel all over the New York City? And
yep, it's an open world game.
But basically all your games are?
Yep, it's just like New York's been totally rebuilt, but you can swing all over the city. People really love that in the Spider-Man games. We've taken advantage of the verticality of the city this time. We've redone the whole combat mechanics, so now you can fight guys on the ground, start fighting up the sides of buildings, line up on the rooftops. It's pretty cool.
How about the web techniques?
Yeah, there's all new web moves. It's going to be pretty. I think people are going to dig it.
Now, can he also travel into Queens and Brooklyn and Bronx or anything like that? Or
it's all in Manhattan.
All in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Okay. And basically, you can't tell me who the secret villains are or anything like that.
No, we've got a lot of Marvel heroes and villains in the. Obviously, they all live in New York. They're all part of this as well. There's going to be a lot of well-known folk and also some people that are more fan favorites.
Okay. I also see you'll have a voice contest going on.
Yep, you're in New York for the Comic-Con. You can come on down and audition to be in the game. We've actually got a couple of lines you can read to audition for one of the pedestrians in the game.
And what happens when you win?
If you win, your voice gets in the game.
Gets in the game. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it. Game will be out in the fall.
With Graham Fuchs, executive producer for the new Spider-Man game that's coming out for Activision. Can you tell us a little bit about the game?
Yep. New York's been invaded. S.H.I.E.L.D. has declared martial law. They're grouped downtown trying to evacuate people from the city. Luke Cage is up in Harlem trying to gather forces for a last stand up there. Kingpin is holed up in his fortress in Midtown trying to get his forces together. And it's up to the player as Spider-Man to decide to figure out how they're going to repel this invasion. This is an open-world Spider-Man game. You can swing all through Manhattan, which people loved in the previous games. However, this is an all-original story. This is based on the comic books, not based on any of the films, which has really allowed us a lot of freedom to bring in a lot of the elements from the comic books that we like as fans of the comics, as well as find the elements that really serve the mechanics of the game best. So it's given us a lot of freedom to kind of make the game that we wanted and make it a real fun Spider-Man experience.
That's pretty good. Now, as far as gameplay, like, is it a traditional like button masher like it was like with Spider-Man 3 with the combos and everything like that, or is it a new fighting system altogether?
It's a brand new fighting system that's been put in this game. What we really wanted to do was kind of take advantage of the verticality of the city. So you're going to be able to start a fight on the ground that goes all the way up the side of a building and winds up on the rooftop. There'll be more. There's wall combat in this game. We really want to take advantage of sort of the acrobatics and web crawling and wall crawling abilities that Spider-Man has and incorporate it into the combat system. You got it.
And you hear that? Fall 2008, a new Spidey game for all you Spider-Man fans out there.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, I caught up with Graham Fuchs, who is the executive producer of Spider-Man Web of Shadows at Activate in New Zealand, and here's what he had to say about the project.
I'm Graham Fuchs. I'm executive producer on Spider-Man Web of Shadows. In Spider-Man Web of Shadows, New York has been invaded by the symbiotes. Those are the creatures responsible for Venom. Luke Cage is uptown trying to gather heroes. Kingpin is in Midtown rallying villains, and it's up to the player Spider-Man to decide who's he going to side with to save New York. Making a Spider-Man game, you start with that character, it just has all these amazing abilities, and the goal is to bring those, to really give those to the player, so you're able to swing through the city like you'd expect to. You're able to climb walls and shoot your webs. One of the goals for the whole combat system that we've developed is we wanted to give the player the ability to fight more like they've fought in the movies and in the comic books. So just give you that like constant fluid motion, bouncing from guy to guy to guy, using the environment in your combos. That's how we kind of came up with this with design that you can start a fight on the ground, you fight the guy up the side of a building, and then knock him off the roof, and then fight him all the way back down to the ground again. The most 3D game ever, as our lead combat designer likes to call it. So yeah, I mean that's really been the way we've approached it. Is like we want to make a game that really makes you feel like Spider-Man, and we think that gamers are going to enjoy that as well. It's just a great kind of action game. We've given the player full control over the red suit and the black suit this time around. You can switch suits at any point during the game. We even allow the player to switch suits mid-combo, so you can create a multi-suit combo, something we've never seen in the game before. And as you're playing through the game, you're gaining experience by completing missions, by stopping crimes, by kind of fighting all the stuff that's happening in the city. And you can use that experience to upgrade either of your suits, so you can upgrade more of your web abilities on your red suit, more of your tentacle abilities on your black suit. Just kind of find whatever moves you find yourself using more. If you're doing more of the web strike combat, which is like the bouncing from guy to guy, you find yourself just getting in toe-to-toe and fighting people like that. Like there's just a whole branch of moves for each of those abilities that you can just upgrade, so it really allows you to customize your Spider-Man.
Now, morality looks like it's going to play a pretty big role in this, and you mentioned the red and black suits. Tell us a bit about the two different aspects and how they'll play out for the story.
Sure. Well, Spider-Man's a good guy no matter what. So, what you're really doing is, as a red suit, you're being more of the hero. As a black suit, you're being more of the, by any means necessary sort of guy. So, in the red suit, you're being more heroic. The red suit is more agility and web-based. If you're doing more of your combat in the red suit and making more red decisions along the way, people in the story, the citizens of New York will kind of cheer you as you're going by. You know, they're going to treat you more like a hero. If you are being more the black suit, you know, black suit is more strength and power based. His moves cause a lot more collateral damage in the city as you're fighting. And if you're doing that, people are going to be much more wary of you. They're going to be, you know, they're kind of going to stay away and run away a little bit when you're coming close to them. And then these decisions affect whether you're, you know, are you being more red or are you being more black? And as you encounter various heroes and villains during the story, during this invasion, that's going to affect how they react to you as well. So, you know, whether the heroes are more with you, whether the villains are more with you. There's multiple endings to the game, so, you know, the choices that you make during the game are also going to affect what happens at the end. So there's just kind of a lot to play with there. In previous games, we've really sort of assigned the suit for specific missions, or there's been, you know, penalties for using the suit, so we really made it more of a player decision this time around. I'm Graham Fuchs, executive producer of Spider-Man Web of Shadows. It'll be out in October on all platforms.
Understands what's happening. I thought it was an infection. Turned out to be an invasion. Look at them all. How can one man help to defeat them?
Does a little symbiote Wolverine work for you? Yeah. Dang. All right. This.
Hey boys, I'm Trisha Helfer, voice of Black Cat in the upcoming game Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Black Cat, I think, is a great role to play. She's sexy, she's seductive, but she's also incredibly intelligent. She's mysterious and mischievous, so she's got all these facets to a female character. I knew of Black Cat, obviously, so the idea of actually playing Black Cat was just too kind of good to be true. So when the opportunity came around to do the video game, I just thought, wow, great, yes. I can really kind of fully do Black Cat how I think she should be played. I find all of her appealing to play, but I like the playfulness. I like the strength. I like her sort of mischievous side. There's more to her than just purring and seductive. You know, she's very intelligent. She's very strong. She's got this whole bag of tricks. It's easy to step into that physicality. Sometimes you don't get that. You just get the sexy side. For more of Activision's latest on the game, go to www.seizcontrol.com. There you'll find me revealing Spidey as you've never seen him before. Spider-Man Web of Shadows. We have great presentation lined up for you, including in-depth presentations from some of the biggest games in 2008. Thanks for coming by and enjoy the show.
Who understands what's happening. What I thought was an infection turned out to be an invasion. Look at them all. How can one man help to defeat them?
köşemizde aksiyon türünde bir macera olan Spider-Man Web of Shadows adlı oyunu tanıtıyoruz sizlere. Yine bir kahramanlık öyküsü ve yine şehri uzaylılar istila ediyor ve bu sefer kahramanımız Spider-Man yani Örümcek Adam. Gerisini senden dinleyelim sevgili
Evet,
Çağdaş.
Spider-Man 3'ün aslında devamı Berin. Spider-Man 3'te olduğu gibi New York sokaklarında dolaşıyorsunuz ve yine savaşmanız gereken bir tür var. Ama burada iki seçeneğiniz var. İsterseniz hem kendinizi kurtarıp hem de bu yeni nesil canavarlarla savaşabilirsiniz. Bunun yanında da şehirdeki insanları da kurtarabilirsiniz. Ekim'in son haftasında piyasaya çıktı. Bunun yanında tüm oyun konsollarıyla oynanabiliyor. Xbox'la, Nintendo Wii veya DS'le oynayabiliyorsunuz. Ve bunun için çok güzel bir video hazırladık sizler için. İsterseniz hemen videomuzu izleyelim.
What has become of my city? What has become of its heroes? Its villains? How do I turn back the darkness? Without losing myself to it. If I go against everything I stand for,